We're talking to the one and only.
Mhm.
Guan, thank you very much for doing this. As I've explained to you, this is something that I've been wanting to do for a while now. I think as it will actually come through your words as well. One of the reasons I think this is important is because we talked a little bit about how sometimes people like yourself who are in creative leadership, advertising leadership, not even necessarily with our industry, but just thought leadership. Sometimes, unfortunately, a lot of people who get to hear the things that people like yourself have to say are sometimes confined to a certain forum. And if you're lucky enough to be able to hear you speak, I haven't, unfortunately, had the privilege of doing it, but I thought, bring you on and I can kill two birds with one stone. I get to hear what you have to say, and we get to give it out more democratically to people around. Okay, so thank you for that. So to start, and I think overall the thing we're going to talk about is one big topic, and it's you're very much the archetype for the type of person I want to talk to about this, which is to start with, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the business of being in a fast-moving, creative-based, business-orientated field. But then we should also talk about the people themselves and how they're being affected and what we can do or what you can share with us to help them understand what it is that we all need to do collectively and individually from a brand building exercise. So, having said that, the first thing I would say then is you come from a creative background of advertising, and you have been doing this for quite a while, 30 years plus, and you have seen a lot of different versions of the business over these 30 years. Some have been great, some have been challenging. I don't want to put words in your mouth on where you think we are today, but perhaps you could start with talking a little bit about creativity in general on where we are today, because the first section is always about in the news. You are in Singapore. You're APAC based. You have been for the longest time, but you are still in Singapore. So something that might talk to everybody, but also talk to the people that you are closest to on where creativity is today and where it's going. And it would also be a good place to then bring out things like Penguin, if you know what I mean.
Sure. No worries. Hey, thanks for the opportunity and thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to share. Before we talk about today, maybe over my last, 30 years of experience in the field of creativity. When we all first started long time ago, I think creativity is a very special word, right? I think there are only some people that can be creative, and obviously we are always sort of put in different departments, right? I mean, and also even in creativity, especially working in advertising, there's an art director, copywriter, illustrator. I mean, we're all sort of positioned in different departments. I think over the years, right? I mean, we've seen creativity. Everyone can be creative, and the reason is just but we got the tools now to be much more creative. And I think people have more permission to be creative, even though they might not be in a creative field. And I think today's creativity is much more broad based. And when we were all working in advertising many years ago, it was a very specialized thing. I mean, perhaps maybe in a creative department, you will come up with creative ideas, and obviously we would be really focused on bring that idea to life through all the different mediums. And in those days, were there very limited platforms, right? I mean, TV, print, radio. But I think today's world, the idea of creativity lies within the platform itself. So I think, you know, understanding what platform your idea lives, creativity is also it has to be um, it has to work within the platform given. And also the concept of ideas has also evolved. I mean, we used to think um, some years past, right? The tagline is the creative idea. I mean, I worked on Kit Kat. You remember the famous line, "Have a break, have a Kit Kat," and it lived on for many years. I think it's still doing a great job as it evolves over time. But in today's world, I mean, it doesn't live, sorry, the idea doesn't have to be a tagline. It could be a product, it could be an activation, it could be so many different things that, the platform sort of bring life to. And today, even if you talk about Instagram stories, right? I mean, an Instagram story isn't from, beginning and end. I mean, it sort of lives within the journey, our lives that's more authentic. And so I feel that today's creativity is definitely more exciting than it was many years ago. But at the same time, it's also very tough to define creativity as, you know, solving a problem or creativity as creating engaging content. It's sort of many things to many people, and we need to find a nice balance which works well. Like, for example, for clients, which works well for things that you want to do, especially now with influencer content marketing. That's been a huge take up rate in terms of how brands are evolved into building their campaigns from there.
So great. I think you've laid down a nice foundation of where we've all reached in the last couple of decades of advertising, how it's evolved in some ways. What are you seeing that's happening within your world? And you may be based in the small island nation of Singapore, but
Mm,
it is a nation that punches above its weight because of its accessibility and its connection to a lot of the APAC markets.
yep.
So with that in mind, what are you seeing is the cause and effect of what you've just described?
The cause and effect working
Well,
in
we've talked about the cause of
yes,
why we have moved on, and this is where we
yes.
are. I guess maybe it's more about the effect. What do you think is the effect in certainly the Southeast Asian market and beyond, and how it manifests? Because it must be manifesting differently in different markets. But what are you
Hmm.
seeing that's happening on the market that you are more concentrating on right now?
Okay. I mean, the brands that I worked on in Singapore are, I mean, based on three pockets: local, regional, global, right? And I mean, I'll start with the local market. I mean, the local markets, the work is much more colloquial. The words have some cultural nuances in terms of how Singaporeans look at the work, and also there is a lot of inside jokes, right, or inside sort of in cultural insights that's been built upon. When you go into the local regional work, somehow it opens up into much more of a slightly more universal insight that can work across different regions, and also tapping into a lot of Asian sort of rich insights. And I think understanding each market, for example, um, the cultures in Thailand or the cultures in India, allows you to come up with a broader idea that works across all the different regions. And I think when you touch on the global markets, especially, Singapore has a lot of global accounts, that goes into much more of a broader base. And I try to come up with ideas that's much more visual, that helps to cut across all the languages. So I think, understanding these three different sort of segments will allow you to come out the work that you're able to reach the right target market in a way that is much more impactful and engaging.
And I think that is very much why Singapore has kind of the term I used earlier about punching above its weight in terms of the kind of accounts they work on. I think then maybe to make it a little bit more pointed, you started off by talking about how the idea of branding, which started off first of all as the tagline, became the big idea, and now
Mm,
it's becoming product, et cetera, et cetera. I think I guess I'm asking in the context of, okay, so now here's where we are
yep.
as an industry.
Hmm.
What's happening? Maybe in Singapore, maybe in Southeast Asia.
Yep.
What are the changes we either are not have to be making in order to keep up with the new generative idea world of advertising and creativity in general?
So you mean, just to clarify, you're talking about the changes that maybe technology is bringing us to evolve the idea?
It's
Is
not
that what?
just I think technology is definitely,
Yes.
it's always going to be part of it. AI is
Yeah.
on everyone's lips and
Yep.
we throw it into conversation because it's
Sure.
topical. I think what I'm saying to you is with tools like AI, things that are making our work
Easier,
more
efficient. Mm-hmm.
efficient and productive, what are the changes that you are seeing with the type of clientele, the crowd? You do a lot of public speaking
Mm-hmm.
to these kind of audiences. What are you saying to them on, hey, we got to change. This is what's happening now. This is what you're missing
Mm-hmm.
within the markets that you are talking to, whether it's the leaders in you're talking to, crowds of all different levels and sizes.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is the one thing that we might be missing right now that we should be
Sure.
put to, now that we know this, now that we know this is where we are?
Mm-hmm. I mean, you brought up AI, right? And I'm sure that's always been the topic of everyone's thoughts. But at the same time, I think compared to where we were before, I mean, AI has made a lot of things much more, affordable, much faster, and much more. Um, uh, I mean, clients are actually doing a lot of AI stuff, showing agencies to try and mimic, right? So I think, like I said previously, everyone's trying to be more creative. But the problem is that a little information is a dangerous thing. And when you give them so much power, I mean, if everybody thinks they're creative, the issue is then how creative is it going to, you know, like how much more creative can we add onto our jobs to make it more engaging? And the issue that I find right now is that yes, AI can give you all the wonderful, the magical things where you can illustrate something in seconds, but trying to really focus on getting what is intended for the brand is still quite far apart because the way the copy has been written, the way that we think of ideas, I feel that we need our ideas needs to be imperfect, and that's something I spoke about recently about imperfect beauty. I think imperfection make things much more authentic. There was a beautiful quote by Jenny Han. It says that it's the imperfections that makes things beautiful. And what I meant is that when we talk about beauty, everything is flawless, everything is perfect, and it's like AI, right? But without adding that mistake, without adding that nuances of human imperfection, everything will look the same. And if you also think about stories from movies, right? The latest Superman that I just saw, it was the imperfection that made this Superman very, very perfect. I mean, we started Superman with, him crashing onto the ice. And that vulnerability is really important when we create work today to make sure that our work is human crafted, even though it's AI generated, but the collaboration between human and AI, to me, there's a new AI that I'm trying to push. It is not artificial intelligence. Sorry, it's not artificial intelligence. It's amplified imagination. We need to make sure that we have the imagination and AI can help to amplify it. And it should come from our heart and from our soul.
See, I love that. I love that. I love the fact that we're starting off by saying sometimes we have to go a different way in order to find the right path, in
Mhm.
a way, right? See,
Yes.
you said two things that really stuck out for me: imperfection and the idea, the concept of sameness,
Mm-hmm.
which AI, let's say, does. Here's a way of, this is my take on that, or a different approach to it. Tell me if you think this is in line with this concept that you're talking about. When you said it, the first thing that I think of is the idea of sameness,
Yep.
the idea that if everything looks the same, we're getting lost. And in order to, it's the I don't like bringing brand names into it, but there's a zig and a
Yes.
zag thing conversation happening in the sense where if everyone's going one way, someone's got to be the black sheep. Someone's going to try doing it the other way.
Yep.
So do you think as a this feels like the response to, let's say, AI, your response to here's what's happening, but guys, let's not lose focus. It is about the nuanced differences. I would say that is very much related to the sameness of ideas that we see these days.
Yeah, agree.
The more efficient we're making things
Yes,
in terms of processes,
yes,
in in terms of the output, we're losing that je ne sais quoi, we're
yep,
losing that magic that
yes,
sometimes creativity would have. I mean, we don't have to go into examples, but there was a time when there was a trust that was given to agencies because inherently there was a zig and a zag,
yep,
right? But we have been cutting it down, cutting it down, cutting it down because everything is becoming data centric in some ways.
yep,
Am I right? Is that
yes,
where
yeah,
the impetus of that is coming from?
yeah. I mean, with with technology, we always talk about, I mean, AI, which is about efficiency and speed, right? And the problem with efficiency and speed, it saves you a lot of money, but it doesn't give you something any different because obviously you're taking information that's been done before well, and you're just regurgitating the same information. You know what's interesting? I had a copywriting class in Art Center, and we were supposed to write, advertising copy. And in those days, in Singapore, we wrote, especially our essays in Queen's English. It's like we had to make sure our grammar is perfect. We had to make sure that everything's well written. And I submitted my copywriting test, and the instructor just threw it back at me saying, "This is terrible. It is horrible." And what he said to me is something I'll never forget. He said, "You're not writing, okay, you're writing like a robot. Do not write a brochure. Write copy that you're having a conversation with someone." And you know what's interesting? He said something about adding mistakes in my copy to humanize the work. And that really blew my mind. So if you think about, even copywriting, right? The more mistakes you make, and I don't mean stupid, dumb mistakes, but I'm talking about mistakes that humans, the way, the slang, the way we talk, right? How we talk and how we write is two different things because when we talk, it's a conversation. It can be personal. Even the structure is not Queen's English. And that is maybe what AI, maybe can't imitate unless you tell exactly what it can do. And I feel like, today's world where we try and rush things out, obviously we want to make sure that the copy is perfect. But the problem is that they are reading a brochure type of copy as opposed to a human written copy.
Yeah, you brought up copy. I'm gonna use the simple analogy with art, which is sometimes you have to draw outside the lines,
Yep.
right? If you're always inside the lines, it's going to be like everybody else.
Yes. Yep.
So to that, I mean, I have kind of promoted this thing with you, and as a person, I haven't read this book, Collide.
Yes.
I know what it's a little bit about, and the art kind of gives a little bit of what we're talking here about drawing out the lines, fighting and pushing things beyond what is expected.
Hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about that, maybe how
Yeah.
you got to that, why you got to that, and what we can learn from it.
Sure. Sure. I mean, when I was working on Unilever, and one of the strategies, or when we can't conceptualize the creative and even some pushback from the clients, when we come up with very bland work, the clients would say, "Where's the tension? Where is the tension?" you know what's I mean, the work is bland because there's no enemy. So that got me thinking whether that concept can be put together into a framework that whoever reads my book will get an understanding of what makes things much more creative. And the subhead for Collide is embracing conflict to boost creativity. And the word I use, embracing, is very, very purposeful. As Asians, we run away from conflict, right? I mean, we just hide from conflict. But the word embracing is something that I want people to embrace, to confront conflict, because through conflict, um, better work. I mean, you get much more powerful work. I
It's
was talking,
inclusive.
yeah. For example, I mean, you talk about zig and zag, right? I mean, how do you make white whiter? I mean, that was something I was thinking. How do you make white whiter? And the solution is to make black blacker. To
Okay.
make black blacker. And I know it sounds very esoteric, but what I'm trying to say is that, the bigger the conflict, the more creative work. I mean, just jumping into, Superman again, which is one of my favorite movies right now. I mean, Superman isn't a movie without Lex Luthor. Superman isn't a movie without Kryptonite. With Kryptonite, Lex Luthor, and any tension that goes within the story, there is no story and there is no power in the creativity. And that's
Yeah.
pretty much the summary of Collide, right? Embracing the conflict. I'm not talking about you need to start a fight, right? So I'm not trying to break up marriages like in Coldplay. But here I'm trying to say that creativity is born out of tension. Creativity is born out of conflict. And the
Yeah.
bigger and the conflict allows interesting work that is much more human to be born out of.
Yeah. The Superman thing that I haven't seen it yet, by the way. It has just come out. I haven't seen it yet. It reminded me of something that I saw that you need the girl tied. If the girl was not tied to the tracks, Superman wouldn't exist.
Yeah,
You needed that in order to have a hero, in order to have that savior.
yeah.
And you're right. I think that is a very interesting way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you mentioned Unilever, so I'm assuming. I mean, I've known you since
Yes.
your Unilever days, even before that, but we have been
Yes.
in the same place since Unilever days in the past. You mentioned that they were championing looking for that conflict. Okay,
Yep. Tension.
so
I mean, they
the
call it
tension. Sorry,
tension
sorry, you're
at the
right.
moment.
Tension,
Yes.
not conflict.
Tension.
Tension. It depends. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Tension is a better word. Here's my question then. So now that seems to me like a lesson that was born out of a great relationship between a client, which was challenging
Mm-hmm.
for you at that
Yes.
time.
Yep.
Do you think clients in our current mode, how much you know what's happening between your peers right now in Singapore, APAC,
Mhm.
or beyond?
Right.
Do you think that that type of conversation is happening, or
Listen.
is it happening enough?
Yeah. It always depends on the relationship. I mean, sorry, it's the level of relationship, Z. I mean, sometimes you have clients that wants you to do exactly what they tell you to. There's some clients that really want that partnership. And obviously, there are some clients who trust, wholeheartedly in what you do. I think the best clients are the ones that have a partnership because they do also need to, report back to their bosses, but at the same time, they give agencies the freedom to experiment and come up with really good work. And it all boils down to what is the outcome? Because sometimes, I mean, for example, like, I mean, if you're doing a quick and easy, dirty social media, you might not have time to bounce around for the biggest brand ideas. And usually, those big brand ideas that probably need a huge budget would require a lot more thought, would require a lot more, thinking. Because, if you're going to create something big, you also want to create something that people care about. Because if you don't, if people don't care, they won't share. So I think it's about, when you have this conflict, it gives a great story for people to care about your, either your characters or your products. And I think it gives creative and sorry agencies and clients the permission to work together and come up with really exciting work.
Okay, so then I like that. To add another element to the conversation, then we've already mentioned we've talked about thought leadership.
Yep.
You are at this point now where you find yourself being able to mentor today's thought leaders, tomorrow's thought leaders, agencies, clients alike.
Hmm.
Your book is very much a poster child in some ways on what that ethos is.
Yep.
Let's bring in the thought leaders into this conversation a little bit.
Sure.
You talked a little bit about how this is the way we should be looking at it from a relationship point of view, from the way we should be pushing it. Don't shy away from the tension, embrace it. I love that.
Hmm.
That's a beautiful way
Hmm.
of looking at it. How do you deal with right now? And I think this is a bit of a it's a situation that I've been talking to leaders like yourself, Singapore, in the Antipodes, in Australia, New Zealand, Europe, London so far, and some in the US. And I'm getting this same kind of vibe from a lot of the thought leaders in uh, things aren't going as rosy as it used to be. And at the end of the day, Guan, I think we both know
Mhm.
that every decade we've been doing it, we've been
Yep.
saying, oh, that was better before. It was better before.
Yes.
But then we
Yep.
make it across to the next line, and then we say, oh, it was
Yeah.
better before. It's a perpetual thing. We're going to
Sure.
have that.
Hmm.
But then what do you tell thought leaders today on what to do with this version of the challenge that we're facing?
Mm. You know what? I think the best way is to embrace it. I think it's interesting, right? I mean, every time when we go through any big change, whether through technology or whether it's through your organization, it's about preparing. Sorry, it's about embracing, but also planning for the future, right? Z, I think it's also about understanding where the market is at the moment. I mean, for me, when I was in a leadership position, it's always about building a good team. It's about, collaborating well together. It's also important to make sure that um, by planning maybe, not 10 years ahead, it could be like, 2 or 3 years ahead to see how, how, how well positioned you would be able to see where either your career is going or where you will be at. So when I was actually still in JWT, I also wanted to plan my own career. And this is part of my own thought leadership, right? I wasn't particularly good in speaking. I wasn't particularly good in. I'm also. I don't feel I'm eloquent enough to maybe carry a conversation that would be thought provoking. But over time, I've joined an Asia Professional Speaking Singapore to improve myself. And being a speaker or keynote speaker, that was my plan. That was my 5 to 3 year plan. So I had to go for coaching. I joined an association. I met up with people within that circle of friends. And so my circle of friends changed from just purely creative people to a speaking community. So I think it's about planning ahead, making a very definitive switch in whatever you want to do from your leadership point of view and how you want to approach it. And writing this book Collide also took me 3 years, but it was also being part of this speakers community that helped or spurred me or inspired me to write the book. Because as creative leaders, right? Sorry, as creative person, you're always known for your best work or your best award result. What happens if you don't win for the next 3 years? Are you going to be a loser? Are you going to lose your craft? And the book allows me to leave just a creative legacy, not for myself, but also for the next generation, and also gives me some permission to have a bit of a framework for me to sort of share my experiences over the years. So that to me, I mean, I was planning my thought leadership to transfer my skills from a creative person to a mentorship or to a creative community builder and hopefully to an author.
Yeah, I think what you're basically saying is it's about reinvention in some
Yep.
ways, right?
Yep.
It's it's one thing to find yourself. I don't know the exact statistic, but I know that in advertising and marketing, all careers are finite.
Hmm.
That's just a reality of how it is. There are words bandied around the idea of ageism and this and that, and I think there's truth to that across the board, across all industries. Again, it's just part of life and career. But I think what you've just said about yourself is you got to that point where the reinvention of oneself
Hmm.
became the driving force to go, well, you know what, we have to adapt. The great thing about
Yes.
advertising is one of the things I used to brag about with my friends who are not in advertising when I was a junior.
Hmm.
This is the naive me growing up, well, starting up in the industry. I used to brag to my friends who are engineers and, doctors and all. Like, the great thing about what I do is I can invest my time in something for a certain period of time. I
Yep.
can learn it, build it, make it, set it free, and then tomorrow I do something new.
Yep.
So in a way, advertising is actually one of those industries which allow us to do that. Certainly in a creative sense,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps even more, even also with strategic planning sense, because
Yep.
we focus on certain things, but then we shift the goalposts. We shift the goalposts. So we're kind of used to reinventing ourselves on an operational basis, let's
Yep.
say.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this thing, and I don't know. You tell me what you think about this. I've always felt you may think this is unfair, that, oh, you got to do this for your brand to get from A to B to C to D. And we tell them and kill them with these words because we want them to work with us. But
Mm-hmm.
somehow, do we do enough of that for ourselves, for the brands within
Mm-hmm.
advertising? Do you know what I mean? Are
Yep.
we reinventing ourselves in some ways? Are we shackled to the ways of doing things a certain way because that is the way it's been mandated to us, whether it's one holding company or a brand or that holding company or everybody else? I feel one of the things, and this is the bit I would like you to comment on. I feel in the last more than 10 years, maybe even 15, 20 years, the way we have built the industry, Guan Hin can walk out the door today,
Mm-hmm.
go into another brand, and nobody will know that he had to do anything different. What I
Mm-hmm.
mean by that is the brand hasn't changed. I do remember a time when I started 20 plus years ago when, oh, you went to Saatchi's to get this kind of ideas. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that feels like a very PDB kind of a thing. Oh, that feels like a very JWT kind of thing. Don't you think we've lost a bit of that?
Yeah.
Don't you think that's
Yeah.
also the reason behind we are not reinventing ourselves enough?
Yeah. Um, I think when I first started industry, I mean, there were fantastic agencies, especially in Singapore, right? I mean, Saatchi's and Saatchi's was the agency I would love to work in. And then we had Leo Burnett's and JWT. I mean, all big, big brands, so really top the line. And they were built by the foundation of the founders. I mean, Leo Burnett with Burnett's and, with the Saatchi's, and everyone was quite distinctive in the style. They built big brands known for I won't say known for particular style, but they will also have some superstars, ECDs, or creative directors that also I would like to work with. I think in these days with holding companies, buying agencies or ripping agencies' name out and, merging lots of names together, it is quite tough for agencies to have that philosophy in terms of how they sell themselves. And right now, it seems to be the age of the small agencies and also the age of people working for people. So I think, if I knew someone great I wanted to work there, I would apply to work there, even though the agency might not be really well known, because it's better to be mentored or to be able to learn from this particular person. So I think the age of personal branding has started to evolve over the years, over time. And because of personal branding, you can see lots of, creative leaders have started to shift that, including myself, when I started the journey. And I feel that, as creative, if you don't start today, it is quite tough to start when you lose your job. I mean, imagine you're the chief executive. So if you're the CCO of a big agency, and when you lose your job tomorrow, you lose your self worth, you lose your identity, and you lose your friends practically. I mean, nobody wants to be your friends without that big title. And it's really important to build your own brand, to build what you stand for, and to build that purpose much earlier on so that if you lose the title, actually your self worth and how people look at you is still intact. And I think that's where I've shifted, to build my personal brand on LinkedIn, especially. Not and the book is actually part of the plan, right? I mean, the keynote speaking is also part of what I do. So if I when I take myself as a product, and it's strange, right? We do great branding and marketing for our clients, but when it comes to our personal marketing, we suck. We're either too shy or it's very cringy. But if you remove yourself out of the equation and think of yourself as a product, you then start to market in a way that's perceived differently. Obviously, you don't have to do all the cringy stuff, but what is your value? What do you stand for? I mean, what do you offer to clients if you start your own agency? If you did a consultancy, why would clients actually buy you, and what value do you hold? And that to me is how you build your personal brand.
Personal branding is definitely something. Let's talk about that. But before we do, I want to finish. I want to address the thing that you just mentioned as well. That I'm guessing there was some personal experience in the way you use that example of CCO to the point where you go, "What's the self worth?" I will take
Mm-hmm.
it as that. I apologize if that's not how you intended. And I think that is happening anyway. That
Mm-hmm.
happens when once you go over a certain threshold. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It doesn't have to be a CCO. It can be ECD.
Yep.
Sometimes it's CD as well. It
Yep.
just keeping up with it. I think to give ourselves a break, I
Yep.
will say luck is always there.
Sure.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're the best. It doesn't matter if you're the best actor in the world. Sometimes if you don't get the chance to prove it, you're not going to get there. So that's going to happen anyway. But when you're given that chance, there's that. I think you mentioned at the as it was happening to
Mm-hmm.
you, at least in your experience,
Mm-hmm.
you hadn't quite thought or realized that. Oh, I should also be building my person. You're speaking now from
Yes.
experience. At the
Yes.
time, this is hindsight. At the time,
Yep.
you weren't seeing that, and that's okay. And I say it's okay because, again, going back to the environment and the way we were taught to be focus, build, build. Okay, focus, build, build. I just made it up, but you understand
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by these three words. Do you think there is something in the nature of the yesteryear of the way we were harnessing and cultivating talent in the sense that we cared a lot more about the business end of things and the individuals? No, you know what? I'm gonna go back a bit. Uh, I know this Sachi's time you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and I know the person you're talking about.
Yep.
Very, very big name, obviously. It was a time and era where the heroes became part of the brand.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they touched, they were that, and their excellence carried the brand as well. It impacts trust with clients. It impacts the type of talent you're going to attract. A lot of those things. I think between that period and then the period before your CCO days, let's say, we
Mm-hmm.
started to not have heroes. Did we? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Like, did we lose that shine of we need that North Star?
We lost it because the power shifted from creativity to either efficiency, data driven, or money. Yeah. So I think that's where, when I first started, I did say that creativity is valued for its, creativity is of a higher value many years ago. Now it's much on a lower scale, and what's valued is efficiency, speed, and cost. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the whole value system in terms of how the work is being judged or how you push the
The
work.
hierarchy has
Yeah, the
shifted.
hierarchy, correct. So
Yeah.
just think about it, right? I mean, we charge clients by the hour. I mean, some do, and creativity isn't measured by hours. Yeah, it's measured by the impact and the outcome. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, a very talented creative person can come up with a great, idea in 5 minutes and it's how do you charge 5 minutes of pure great talent? So what I'm trying to say is that if the value system has changed over time, I think that's where creativity has lost its importance within the value chain. But having said that, creativity is now democratized and everyone's creative. it doesn't mean that everyone's creative, all the creative are good, right? I mean, but if everybody's thinking their creative is really, really good, then who's really going to make the final call and the judge? And usually it's the one with the money. It's the person with the money that's making the call. You agree?
I yeah, no, I agree. I picked up this thing in the last couple of years. I follow this YouTuber unrelated to our field or industry. I'm not going to go into that, but he has this thing. He's made a brand out of it, and
Right.
it's such a beautiful, simple thing that as a creative, we sometimes arrogantly don't like to think about it. But he has a
Yes.
saying that says, "Hard work beats talent."
Yep.
The idea that you're right. Anyone can be creative. We can all try to build a cachet and equity for ourselves
Yeah.
through our work, through our personal branding. But at the end of the day, it takes blood, sweat, and tears.
Yep.
And sometimes, if you don't recognize that personal branding
Mm.
is the driving force, understanding the value of personal branding is the driving force behind it,
Mhm.
you're just talent. Talent is nothing without the hard work that goes into it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Don't you
I
think?
think it's. I mean, I think it's all the above, though. I think. I mean, obviously, the hard work is really important. I'm not denying it, but right now, it's about playing it smart. In this, I mean, I was just trying to figure out a piece of work, right? There is like almost 1,000 AI tools, right, to accomplish something else. So I can work hard in picking the wrong AI tool and spending all the time, or do I pick a right tool that I can do it for 5 minutes? So besides the hard work today, it's understanding the different platforms and understanding the tools that allow you to be much more efficient that helps you to amplify your imagination. So remember I said AI is about amplifying imagination. So yes, I think today's world, working smart is key. Understanding the right platform and understanding what tools you can use to achieve it. It takes a long time to discover the tools and a lot of money that you squander
Yeah,
off through the credits. Yeah.
it's the
So
investment you make.
correct, correct. Before that, before I think things were much more simpler, right? There's pure talent in terms of the way you write copy. There's pure talent on creativity, whether you draw. I mean, it really comes without many tools, if you remember. I mean, we don't have a idea generation software before, right? I mean, now even ChatGPT is an idea generation software. So I'm just saying that there is so many things out there that can either distract us or make us better.
Fair, fair. I think so. I said let's talk about the personal branding stuff, but let's talk about it in a little bit of a different context. You and I have had some calls before this live session. I wanted to understand a little bit on how you are bringing in your learnings through your speaking sessions, through the book that kind of is your the the essential guide to understanding how to do that. But you and I, we talked private one-on-one a little bit on personal branding nowadays. And in fact, you mentioned in the beginning of the call, personal branding nowadays lives not on platforms, let's say, right? On a social media. You utilize LinkedIn in a way that's helping you build your brand. You utilize the
Yes.
book in a way that helps build your brand.
Yep.
Now, one of the things certainly with Gen Z and even late millennials have been doing, while people like yourself, when you were at the helm of the big ships, steering in, and at that point, personal branding wasn't the big thing because
Mhm.
everything's great. We're heading in the right direction. But
Yep.
there are people who are, let's say, the Gen Zs now, and then the late age millennials. They were
Yep.
already looking at that, and they were doing it through. Oh, look, I like photography on the side, and I have an Instagram that pushes that. I know a CCO who sells art print, for
Yep.
example. I know someone
Yep.
who creates physical art and this and that. So there are all these manifestations on personal branding that's been happening now anyway.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about personal branding today in terms of, let's say, this platform. This is my personal branding, I suppose, in a way.
Yep.
I've understood my experience has had a value within a particular point, and I'm using this also to build something. In this case, it's a community of like-minded thinking people to build that rapport.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about that. I have some opinions on it because I'm doing a version of that. You're obviously doing a version of that.
Sure,
We are
sure.
at certainly different times at which we've come into it. Your approach to it is based on what you've done before
Yep.
before this point. I'm doing it at a different stage as well. What do you say to the Guans, the Me's, the next
Mm-hmm.
on how to approach personal branding? Because it can be a cookie cutter solution, obviously.
Sure, sure. Sure. Okay. Um, it's quite simple. I think there should be, I mean, there's, okay, there are three circles that sort of overlap with each other. The
Okay.
first circle is what's your passion? What's your passion? Yeah. What's your passion? So if your passion is about, say, art, for example, or drawing, then the second overlap is about your audience. I mean, who is your audience? That is really key. And the last circle that overlaps is with your passion. How can you make a living out of your passion? Because if you're able to find something that the audience or customers like, then you've got the perfect sweet spot. That's basic is. So it's your passion, it's your audience, and also what the audience are willing to pay.
We talked a little bit about Gen Z.
Yep,
They are the now and the future of
yep,
this business that we call advertising. Some might say, due to everything that has led up to this point,
yep,
there is a lack of interest in seeing the full potential of this game we call advertising
yep.
with this next generation. And I may throw in there that it might be because they inherently know personal branding more so than we did when we started.
Sure.
And it might have come out off the back of the fact that, oh, advertising is something, but I think there's something more for me out there. This is not going anywhere. What would you say to them? Who, by the way, let's not put them down.
Mm-hmm.
We should always look great. They figured out personal branding from a very early stage.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you say to them in a different way on understanding the value of where advertising still has potential? Or
Yep.
does it even have potential? Do you believe it does?
Mm. Actually, I find the word advertising is sort of it's moved on, and
A creative
yeah,
outlet.
yeah, correct. And I think the word now is content creation. I mean, content creation, it's a bit like advertising, to be honest, because advertising is always creating content that people want to be engaged with. And advertising has this connotation of pushing stuff. I mean, you pay for the media and you advertise. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You're advertising for a brand or you're advertising for your product. I think in today's world, I mean, if you reframe it to make it content creation, then it's quite this different perspective because then you get content creators creating work for clients that might not sometimes sell stuff but might push in terms of what they believe in. Sure, selling can be part of it, but it goes beyond advertising. So and content creators are now influencers in some way. And the word influencer is interesting, right? In advertising, we always want to influence our audience. I mean, influence is such a big it's it's more than just advertising, right? I mean, you're influencing something, you're influencing someone to believe in your product so they can buy your product and be loyal customers. And the influence, I mean, the word influence is far greater. So for me, being I mean, whether you call it content creation, influencer, advertising, our creative goal has always been the same, right? To create content that people enjoy, to create content that might move the needle and, move some products. But at the same time, the way the content is being created is so different than advertising. I mean, content creation could be just a video that's happening right now. Creation can be a stunt. I mean, honestly, that Coldplay thing erupted. I mean, it's content, but it's obviously with affairs and gossip, those contents spread a lot faster. So I think content, if you find a way to merge the product in a very seamless way, it becomes really powerful because it becomes invisible. So for me, I don't know if you've seen IKEA did a, a content
I saw it.
of
I
putting
saw it.
a panda doll and another doll
Yeah,
together hugging
I
each
saw it.
other,
Yeah.
and it says HR approved. So is that advertising? Is that content? Is it hacking on a trend? Honestly, it checks all the right boxes. Do you know what I'm saying? See?
Yeah. So okay,
So
my opinion on that particular thing, we mentioned Coldplay. I don't want to be the guy who tries to make this part of the conversation, but we're here now. The virality that was created by
yes,
the Coldplay thing was virality, and
yes,
it's a flash in the. It happens. It happens.
yes,
We don't know when it
yes,
happens. You can't control it, and I think
yeah,
in the business of marketing and advertising, we've all experienced conversations
yes,
from the agent side talking to clients, and clients go, make it go viral, make it go viral,
yes,
because
yes,
and we have all almost been a victim of saying, yeah, sure, we can do that. We're gonna make it go viral. But at the end of the day, it's not a plug-in kind of a thing.
okay.
There has
So
to be a conversation.
yeah,
But IKEA thing, personally, I think the IKEA thing for a brand, in this case, IKEA
yeah,
Singapore, I don't think it builds the brand, but I think what it does, and I think it's a good thing. That's the thing that we should be latching onto, is show that you are up with the conversation. There's nothing
yeah,
wrong with being up with the. It's not going to go viral. We've just made it. We've given it a bit more importance on this call because we're interested in a particular topic. In this case, advertising in Singapore.
mm.
I think there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that's gonna. I don't think that's the answer to when clients say, "Whatever you do, make it go viral." But what it does is it's like that conversation, like top of mind, up and down. Like,
Mm,
where is my brand sentiment right now? We should
mm,
always keep doing that, but it
yeah,
shouldn't be the focus. The focus should be that is a version of creativity to jump on
mm,
it, get the panda and the other stuffed
mm,
animal and do that.
mm, mm.
That's great,
I
but I don't
mean,
think that's yeah.
okay, so I think the difference is that that's building a brand based on the tonality being cheeky. That's building a brand because, um, okay, not many brands can pull that off, to be honest. And that's building a brand because that's their product too. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that they've got they've got, I mean, a brand also lives within the conversations of people. So I have three things, three sort of words that I normally sort of go back to when that makes a brand live within the conversations of either social media or other content, which is number one, it's got to be authentic. So when a brand behaves in a very authentic, real way, people sort of it makes it a lot more approachable. The second thing, it's got to be relatable, and IKEA did that really well. So to find relatable things that connects us from a human level. So whether it's a trend or human insight, and the last one has got to be relevant. So, real, relevant, relatable to me are sort of important points when I look at brand building because those things, besides the colors, besides the song, or besides the brand book, because it allows more conversations to take place, but also helps any brands to approach you in such a way that people can feel that you're my friend. I think a brand needs to be able to connect with you in a very human way.
Okay. Um, that was a very serious, in-depth conversation for you. Think we went a little bit off script, but I think it was good. So look, I don't. Whoever listens to these things and I create the clips afterwards, I don't want them to only go away with a lesson from a teacher. I would like to, because truth be told, I've physically known you for over 10 years, but I haven't really gotten to know who you are. And
Right.
I really appreciate that I got a chance to do a little bit more than I have been able to the last decade. So thank you
Sure.
for that.
No worries.
But I said there's one of the reasons for this to building like a community thing is they have to also go away to go, oh, I know Guan Hin. He's the guy who did that thing at that thought leadership program.
Yep.
Or, oh, I remember him around the agency during my time in Singapore. Now I'm living somewhere else.
Yep.
But you've kind of started it because of your promo profile pic.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. And this is something I like to do for 10 minutes before our hour is up. I call it 10 minutes of you, so 10 minutes of Guan.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what the hell is that picture about? Tell us a little bit more about
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Guan that I did not know who is here right now.
Yeah. So, this is a funny joke too, really quick, if I may. So every time when I go on a vacation, I'll write an email, sort of, out of office email, and it says go on fishing. uh, Play on pun on gone fishing. So I love fishing. I lived near the sea all my life, and I really enjoy fishing from the perspective of getting away from everything, a place where it's peaceful for me to think, and I just love the way the adrenaline when you catch a fish. So the picture that you saw was a trip I made to Pattaya or Bangkok, I can't remember, and it was a paid pond where you can catch these Amazon monster fishes that's, relatively easy to catch. But it was just a time away for me to, get away from everything. And it also allows me to, build upon something that I enjoy, right? Which is, a passion that I really mentioned about fishing. The other thing that I like was also boating that I'm taking right now I'm taking a boating license. I failed the first two times and hopefully I will pass on the third time. So if you do come to Singapore, hopefully I can drive you around the islands soon.
Yeah. Which part of the water are you in Singapore?
Oh, usually it's always at the southern waterfront. Yeah, it's
Okay.
always
Okay.
the South Islands that you do. I mean, Singapore, there's not many places to boat, to be honest, but there's only a few islands and places you can go. But I was hoping to get an international license one of these days, and hopefully drive in a different country, like in Phuket or in somewhere else, much more exciting.
Yeah, it's always nice to be able to disconnect in some ways, right?
Yep.
What is the point of the efforts we make in the things like I'm a scuba diver myself.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the point of pursuing uh, only based on career and the money and the rewards that come with it, obviously. But you have to have that outlet, and I think that's something all creative people do anyway, naturally. But it's nice to be able to do that. Sometimes I actually, what I like about the picture you shared, and the reason I wanted to talk about it is because you see a lot of creative people, certainly, whose passion is, let's say, photography. But that's like
Yep.
you're right there. You're
Yep.
there, or
Yep.
art.
Yep.
And the fact that you can pick something completely removed from who you are,
Yep.
I think it's very healthy. It's a very
Sure.
healthy way of dealing with it. It's good for your mind, good for your soul. And
Yep.
I think that's where the longevity comes, my friend. That's why you're being able to keep going and keep reinventing and
Yeah.
talk to others about rebuilding personal branding. Again, thank you, Mr. Tay Guan Hin. Guan,
No,
really
thanks.
appreciate it.
Okay.
We'll talk very soon. And if you're on, please follow. More to come. I do this every Sunday, every week. Uh, I really love the fact that I'm able to talk to more and more people like yourself, Juan, who are going to definitely be the backbone of how I can make this more of a community that we all need to do. At the end of the day, it's not about seniority. It's not about people who are of a certain senior leadership. It's about sharing of ideas with everybody. Whether you are from a creative, I'm trying to get more planners on, I'm trying to get artists on, I'm trying to get a novelist on. You and I talked about someone who's maybe in on the journalistic side.
Hmm.
As long as it's in service of sharing of ideas that
Sure.
help our generation, and the next generation, that's the key.
Sure. Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you again, my friend.
Okay.
Talk soon.
Take care.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody. See you.